Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today we are going to be looking at part 2 of the morning session, Friday morning session of the exercise. What? Someone's behind me? I don't know what to do. It's a good thing I always keep a laser under my desk. Yes, that's right. This is Wally's Convention Crusade. I don't know how all that's going to edit together, but you know what? I'll figure something out, or I'll just scrap the whole thing. Don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see the developments as this convention unfolds. Also, if you'd like to get just a bit of extra bonus content, like a 5-10 minute video per upload, you can check out becoming a channel member or joining the Patreon. With all of that being said, let's do this. Maybe I'll just do the whole thing in that crazy outfit.
Do you face ridicule, opposition, or persecution? Are you trapped in a difficult situation in which there seems to be little you can do to change your circumstances? If so, you are not alone. The Bible tells us that David experienced these things, and David himself tells us how he coped. His words, found at Psalm 62:5, are, "I wait silently for God." Some scholars believe that David was 15 years old when he was anointed as king. If so, then he had to wait 22 years before he became king over all Israel.
Imagine that line is going to be pretty triggering for all of the PMOs in the audience watching this and thinking to themselves, yeah, I do feel like I'm trapped in a difficult situation, which there's not really any way out of. This part is the dramatic Bible reading, which ultimately is usually pretty boring, so I'm assuming we're going to skip most of it and then just try and pluck out a few interesting bits and pieces from it.
We at times may find it difficult to exercise patience, especially when we're suffering unjustly. Often, we can do little to change things. But what if an easy way out presents itself? We should be like David, who first considered Jehovah's viewpoint. Sometimes we should act, but sometimes it's best to wait for Jehovah to correct matters in his due time.
A governing body member is going to know better than anyone the current situation when it comes to Watchtower and their retention numbers, and I'm just going to hazard a guess, it's not looking very good. But with that being said, what is their response? What would be the best way for Jehovah's Witnesses to handle the situation? Clearly, they're getting calls and letters and reports from elders and circuit overseers. They're seeing people not wanting to go to meetings anymore, not wanting to go out in service, and you assume that a lot of these people have doubts. So how do you handle that without handling that specifically? Well, my thing would be, which I think they'll eventually do, and that is trying to change some of their more hardcore policies. That way it makes it easier for someone that is sitting on the fence or having doubts to stay a Jehovah's Witness, because it's just a normal Christian religion. But what Watchtower is doing is just telling people to sit down, shut up, and don't do anything about it. Sometimes you can take action in a situation, but really, the best thing to do is to wait on Jehovah. Just sit there and do nothing. And it's a really unhealthy sort of way of looking at the world or problems you're facing, is just to sit and do absolutely nothing about it.
Nothing.
The shell has spoken!
Nothing. We can't just sit here and do nothing.
But that is classic Jehovah's Witness thinking. Just waiting around for some supernatural solution, or till everyone on the planet that's not a Jehovah's Witness is killed by fireballs, and then you get to have your big fancy house in Beverly Hills. it's not a healthy way to live your life. And sadly, for some people that are having doubts or are starting to question things, they might hear situation or this portion of the convention, and it might lead some, unfortunately, to stay. But the question they should be asking themselves is why? Can you give me a solid reason other than some guy 4,000 years ago that was anointed as king of Israel had to wait 20 years in order to actually become king of Israel? And there was a situation in a cave where he didn't kill the current king because he was patiently waiting on Jehovah. That's not a reason in 2023 for you to not take positive action to get yourself out of an abusive relationship that you're in. That's not a good reason to continue to indoctrinate yourself over and over again and continue to be a Jehovah's Witness till the day you die. So the question you should ask yourself is, why would I do that?
Nabal was a despicable man, but while David deserved compensation for the protection he'd given to Nabal, he had no legal right to Nabal's property. And there was absolutely no reason to murder an Israelite brother and his entire household. Meanwhile, one of Nabal's servants discerned the imminent disaster and had the courage to report what had happened to Abigail, Nabal's wife. He didn't warn Nabal, who wouldn't have listened, but he found a hearing ear with Abigail, who was a woman of discernment, who loved Jehovah. We know little of her background, but life with Nabal must have been difficult. He was harsh, unthankful, and arrogant. Perhaps she was trapped in an arranged marriage. Senselessness is with him, Abigail later said to David. This spiritual woman would not likely have said that unless her husband had caused her to lose the last vestige of love and respect for him. Should she speak with Nabal? No, she couldn't reason with him. Should she run away? If David was anything like Nabal, that might have been the smart thing to do. But Abigail knew that David was a reasonable man who loved Jehovah.
So a little bit to unpack here. First off, why, when he said it's good that he didn't kill Nabal and his whole family? Like, why would David do that? Like, if he gets rid of, the jerk, but then he just wipes out the rest of their family as well and takes all of his stuff? That doesn't seem like it really tracks in my head at all. But anyway, with that aside, here's another example. We had Stephen Lett who said, it would be better, or it's a worldly viewpoint if you think that someone should leave their abusive spouse. And here we have another example of that. Here, Abigail's, laying there in the corner. It looks like she's been knocked down or something. In the shadow of him, looking like he's maybe going to beat her some more. And in this guy's mind, he says, should you talk to him? No. Should you leave? No. Get out. It's instilling this idea in people, and especially from, the comments or phone calls or emails or messages that I get, there are currently PMOs out there, and my heart just absolutely breaks for you guys, who are in abusive relationships with Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're being fed this information. And it not only feeds the abuser, because then they feel like they're untouchable, like they can just do whatever they want, and the person will never leave them. There will never be any consequences to their actions. And so they're not going to stop. And the person that is being abused isn't going to run away and get out. One, because they don't have the tools, because, dynamics of the situation. And two, because they're literally being told by God in their eyes, because the governing body, Watchtower, is God to them. They're being told by God to stay, to just wait it out, to exercise patience. No, this is horrible. This is absolutely disgusting advice.
Perhaps David's men were eager to fight and to plunder, but David held them back. Like David, we too may set out on a course that's not wise. Like David, we should listen to those who try to correct us. About 10 days later, Jehovah struck Nabal, and he died. Afterward, Abigail became David's wife.
So it would have been bad for David to kill Nabal because you're supposed to be in line with God's thinking and wishes and whatever. So then what was God's solution? To kill Nabal. So they were the same thing. I guess this falls under the trust in Jehovah, no matter, even if it doesn't make sense category. Because if the end goal is exactly the same, did he just not want David to have blood on his hands? I mean, David just always had blood on his hands. And hey, at the end of the day, David gets the girl. So if you really want to know the pro tip, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, do nothing your entire life and you'll get the girl. Yeehaw.
Do you have a good imagination? Imagine for a moment that you possess $1 billion. Generous as you are, you likely would decide to share your wealth with others. If you were to give away $1,000 every day, how long would it take for you to run out of money? The answer, 2,739 years. Clearly, if you had $1 billion, you would be very, very rich.
Young Lando Calrissian here completely has missed the mark on this one, because if he knows something, which I guess it depends on what his position is within the organization, he surely must know that Watchtower has billions of dollars. They must have $1 billion. I mean, at least in assets and everything, if they don't just have it sitting around in cash or stocks. And they don't do anything. He even correctly identifies they could give $1,000 a day away to a random Jehovah's Witness, and it would take 2,000 whatever years before they ran out of money. Nope, we would rather just hang on to that bad boy, because we might need to build a new movie studio. You never know, and this is very important work. And we've seen the quality of movies that they produce. I mean, boy, oh boy. What a frustrating way to start your talk, but hopefully it'll pick up, and if not, hey, that's why I'm here. I'll just cut it out.
Nevertheless, Jehovah God's material wealth far exceeds that. At 1 Chronicles 29 and verse 11, David humbly acknowledged in prayer, "Everything in the heavens and on the earth is yours." As the Watchtower once put it, Jehovah is the wealthiest person in the universe.
This guy's actually undercover apostate. I'm 100% convinced. With all of the talks that they've put out over the last just 6 months, even in this drama where they have a donation box set up outside a refugee camp, squeezing pennies out of refugees. How is he going to be like, and you know, you got to make sure you donate that money to Jehovah for Jehovah's work, and yet this guy Jehovah has more money than Bezos and Elon Musk, you know, times 10. He's the wealthiest person in the entire universe. He wipes his ass with Warren Buffett, and yet they are squeezing pennies out of African refugees. This guy has to be trolling.
Well, that brings us to our second question. Why should we view God's extraordinary patience as a precious gift? Well, simply put, because were it not for Jehovah's patience, you and I would simply not exist. Why can we say that? Well, because it was Jehovah's patience in Noah's time that allowed for the building of the ark, that kept those 8 humans safe during a flood. Since those 4 men and women are our common ancestors, we thank God for Noah's ark.
I'm cutting out most of this talk because it's just incredibly boring and kind of just mindless, because he's just talking about all the ways that God has exercised his patience. But this one was pretty weird to me. I think he just wanted to find a way to throw in the term common ancestors, because that's sure cool. I guess my real question is, like, when you consider the whole situation with the Noah, and if you do want to take that literally, why did it have to be with a flood that caused so much suffering and anguish? And just, I can't imagine the scene there, right? Of women and children fighting for their lives to stay above the water. But why couldn't he just Thanos snap them? You don't need the ark. You don't have to have kangaroos taking a flight over to the Middle East. Like, you could just be like, poof, okay, everyone's gone now. It would be more humane, I suppose, because then they're at least not suffering if you're killing them anyway. I don't know. Just a thought.
The following video will illustrate how Jehovah's view of time is much different from ours.
Do you ever feel that time is flying by? Or that it sometimes slows to a crawl? When we are anxious or dealing with illness, time can seem to pass slowly. But when we are absorbed in new and exciting experiences, a day may not feel long enough.
This is why Jehovah's Witnesses are so sad and depressed, because they don't go out and experience things. They don't go out and meet new people or take on some adventure, have a cool hobby that they enjoy, something that they can master, something like goals that they're working towards. Their lives are just like, there's a whole building, right? Like you're at the Burj Khalifa, you know, the tallest building in the world. Is that still the tallest building in the world? I don't know. Anyway, you're there, and all of this stuff to explore. You could go to the top, you know, all these shops, all these restaurants, everything's super cool. And you just stay on the bottom level going around the revolving door. And that is your experience. That is your entire life. You miss out on, you know, this great experience because you just want to stay in this cozy, safe little place where you're just going round and round doing the same thing. And in order to sustain yourself, you're just eating corn dogs and water. And maybe every month you get some lemonade. You just keep going round and round and round. Being a Jehovah's Witness is limiting because they ask and require so much of your time. You physically can't do a lot of the things that you wish to do. And because of their rules, you can't experience all the things that you wish to experience. It's really sad. So, yeah, he nailed it on the head. Why is time passing so slow? Because you're a Jehovah's Witness. Life moves way faster on the outside, I guarantee it. You're going to like the way you look.
You're going to like the way you look. I guarantee it.
To us, some features of creation appear motionless. But over time, they change. Astronomers believe that the first stars formed billions of years ago. It is difficult for us to conceive of such an enormous length of time. But Jehovah, who created the stars, is from everlasting to everlasting. He is not restrained or pressured by time, but neither is he slow to act. He always acts at exactly the right time. Appreciating Jehovah's view of time helps us to be patient while we await his new world.
Jehovah always acts at exactly the right time. What a reassuring thought. God knows the best time to act for the benefit of all concerned, and Jehovah patiently awaits that time.
Maybe when I woke up this morning, I got zapped with some kind of like a stupid beam. Maybe it's like that SpongeBob episode. I'm to have the orb of confusion, and I'm just completely numb in the head.
We still have the orb of confusion. Take this.
How is this meant to be comforting to someone that is going through a difficult time? I can't even get my head around it. Like, I'm going through some horrible, life-changing medical situation, and your answer is, well, God's view of time is a lot different than ours, so just be patient. Honestly, to him, a day is like 1,000 years, so I know you're suffering, but from his perspective, I mean, you're kind of meaningless. You're kind of inconsequential. You don't really matter, because, like, why are you complaining so much? According to God, I mean, you're just like a little tiny tick on his stopwatch. If someone has an explanation as to how this could be comforting to someone, I guess let me know down in the comments, because I can't figure it out. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Wally's Convention Crusade. Now, we're going to cut it off here. It seems a little bit random, but the rest of this talk does have a few interesting bits in it, and there's an interview that I'd like to spend a little bit more time talking about, so that will be coming tomorrow. With all of that being said, don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're still around. Stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to smile.